All right, folks, we are going to get started and learn some basic editing in Photoshop. So you'll be working on clone and spot healing. We are going to be scanning some of our negatives, and especially some of those negatives that might have been damaged some way, somehow, and these are some really easy ways to correct them. One of the first things you need to do is right here, there is a Google folder. You're going to click on the Google folder, and I would like you to right-click, download for both of these images. The next step you will do is you will open up Photoshop, which I already have pulled up, and to open these files, you can do open right here and find them in your downloads, or you could do file open from the top and it will bring you to the exact same spot. If you press Control while you are selecting, it will allow you to select both and open up each of those files in their own tab in Photoshop. So you can see up here, face 1, I click on that, and face 2. On the left-hand side, you will see your Photoshop tools. And if yours looks different than mine, it may be because it is a double row or a single row. So you can see right here, it's hiding. So if it looks different, that may be why. You'll also notice that there is a little arrow behind the bottom right-hand corner. And when you hover over it, it gives you a preview of what that actual tool does. And many of these, when you right-click them, it will show you additional settings within that tool. Okay, so just hovering over it again will give you a little preview of it and what it does. Right-clicking on that will give you the hidden tools. Also on the bottom right is your layers palette, and you are not able to do any edits on a locked layer. So you would need to either make a copy, which is my recommendation, or unlock the layer. Now I am going to say, please make a copy, a duplicate layer, and you can do that by just doing the shortcut Control J. You can see that made that keystroke make an additional layer, or you can right click, duplicate layer, and you can rename it and it'll give you the same exact result. But learning some of those shortcuts for keystrokes is going to help you to work quicker and more efficiently. So I do this just so that if I royally mess up, I don't have to re-download and upload the image. Now another keystroke that I would like you to try is Control+. It will allow me to zoom in, or Control- is zooming out. So I'm pressing Control with my left hand, zooming in, and using the plus or minus button with my right hand. Now you can still do the magnifying glass and do the same thing, and at the top where my cursor is, you can use the magnifying glass to get the subtract one. But again, that's one of those keystrokes, Control+ or minus, to help you work more efficiently. The object of this lesson is for you to practice using some of these basic editing, like the clone tool and the spot healing brush. And I am going to try to get rid of all of the green marks. You definitely want to work closely to where you are. So I am going to zoom in, Control+, and let's just first go over the healing brush, the spot healing brush. So this looks like a Band-Aid, and you can see by the little video here, you can either click your brush over the top of it or click and drag. That is what the video is showing you there. And any of our brush tools are going to have some different modes up here at the top. All right. One of the shortcuts to change your brush size is the brackets on the right-hand side of your keyboard. So you can push the right bracket to make your brush bigger or the left bracket to make it smaller. And again, we're using the healing brush. So I just want to show you, I am trying to make my healing brush selector just about the same size as this, slightly bigger. And what it's going to do is I'm going to press select, and it is sampling the pixels in that area. So I can literally just hover over this and it is going to select a sampling and kind of average it. You could also click and drag. Okay, so this is a very easy way to remove dust or scratches or things like that from your pictures or your negatives. The one area that it might be problematic is where there are two very different values. So for example, down here in the skin and the eyebrow, it is a little bit hard to see, but it kind of repeated some of the values that we see in the eyebrow. So it's a little bit wonky there. So to undo, which is my favorite command, is Control Z. It will redo the last step, and you can do that multiple times. It's Control Z. Another way that you can make a selection is with the lasso tool. I'm going to go ahead and grab that, and you can kind of draw a free-form shape around an area. Okay, and if you mess up your selection, just press Control D, which will deselect. The long way to do that would be to go ahead and use our lasso tool. We make that selection. All right. The long way to do that would be to go ahead and make our selection. There's our selection, and we could do up here at the top, select and deselect. So again, you're saving yourself some steps, but we'll go ahead and make that selection. And then I want you to press Shift with your left hand and Backspace with your right hand. And you'll get this pop up, and it's asking you to select Content Aware. So you just leave that, and you press OK. And a very similar result as the healing brush. And to get rid of the marching ants right there, I'm going to press Control D. The last tool we're going to use right now is the clone stamp, and you can see that on the left-hand side here. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And again, I want you to watch this little video. It's allowing you to make a selection and to repeat that selection. So I'm going to choose that. And so, for example, to kind of show you this, I'm going to use my parentheses to make my brush bigger. I'm going to click. Oops, I could have to define my source point first. Alt click. So I have both my hands on the keyboards, and you see that little cursor, that little bullseye in the middle. Alt click. Now when I move it, you can see I've got that selection, and I basically can paint. I want you to notice that little crosshairs on the left. It kind of moves along with your brush. But I'm going to do Control Z to undo. I'm going to change my brush again. So in terms of this particular assignment, make this smaller here. If you had an area of a lot of contrast, or for example, up by the eyebrow, I could alt click and see it's almost like I've selected this little patch of skin, and I'm kind of drawing back in. Alt click. Sometimes you have to do this several times if you're not getting the exact selection that you want. You know, I'm going to show you a bad example right here. Alt click. See where I'm clicking has a lot of shadow. If I start doing that, I'm repeating the nostril. I'm repeating some of the green there. So I'm going to do Control Z to undo that. So practice makes perfect. We want to not leave any destructive edits. So areas like over here where it's changing in value quite a lot, or we've got the hair, you can do a couple of things. You can zoom in really closely to make sure that you're getting a good eye on what you're actually selecting. That is one of the things that I like to do. And then also it would be just making multiple selections. So redefining your source point. I'm doing Alt, click. It's allowing me to select that. Alt, click. And I'll go down here, Alt, click. Alt, click. So at least that helps me to heal this area, and then I can use my tools over here, maybe some of my other options, my Band-Aid, my spot healing, I could use for some that are more isolated areas. Okay, so I hope that helps. I want to remind you that all of those instructions are listed out here in your Canvas assignment. And say we were finished. In order to turn this in, we would do File, and I want you to write Save a Copy, and then Save on your computer. This will allow you to get a lot of different file options. You're going to just choose JPEG, and then you would, I would say, put your name and face to, right? If you didn't do it that way, if you just did File, Save, it automatically defaults to a Photoshop file for you to save, and I cannot open Photoshop files in Canvas. It just takes way too long. So if you accidentally click Save As and you just come here before Save a Copy, it still gives you this option to save a copy, and it'll refresh the screen, and then you'll have that drop down for a JPEG. So